Hello and welcome to the Friendly Show. I am your friend and host. I did that wrong. I am your host and friend, Leigh. Eventually, I'll get it. It's only episode 16, so give me grace. Anyway, if you are watching this over on First Day Pod, you're in the right place. I've decided to stream in both spots since Mike and I do not do a weekly podcast over there anymore. So today we are going to be talking about depression. That is going to be a continuation of last week's episode. So if you missed that, that was episode 15. You can go back and you can listen to that. There was quite a bit of information that we shared. And then we had some really good conversation uh later on. So you guys know that this is like my favorite show because we get to this is the whole premise. If you're new here, here's what it is. I am not a healthcare professional. I am not a therapist. I am simply your friend. And I like you to imagine us being on a walk or you coming over to my house and being in my living room with a bunch of friends. And we are talking about whatever comes up. And if you're friends with me, you know that the conversations can go all over the place. But what I like to have is kind of a topic that we're like, okay, this is what we're going to start with. And then who knows by the end of it where we'll end up. So this really is my favorite show, the Wednesday night show, because you're a big part of it. So if you are watching this and it's live, then you can go ahead and make comments along the way. So if you have questions, if you want to share your experience about something that I just said, if you want to comment on something that somebody else said, you don't have to wait. You can kind of just pop in and share it, and I will bring it up on the screen and share it, and you'll be part of the show. If you're watching it in the replay, then you can also comment if you're watching in Facebook or YouTube, and I will make sure that I comment when I see the notification. And if you're watching over in Twitch, I still am not 100% sure how to use that. So if you're commenting over there outside of the show, outside of the live, I may not be commenting back. And if I'm not doing that, please come on over to Facebook because that's where I am a lot more. And that is an invitation to you. The Facebook group is completely free. And I do try to post in there live at least 4 or 5 times a week. I try every day, but I don't get to it every day. So I give myself kind of grace. Pops is here. Hey, Britt. Hey, Mel. So glad you guys are here. That's so awesome. And Britt, can you let me know if you've noticed comments like that have come in after the live recording that I've just been not commenting on? If that's the case, if you happen to see that, can you let me know? And I'll try to get in there and figure out how to use Twitch because I don't want people to think I'm ignoring them. It's just I'm not tech savvy in that department yet. Okay. So I did want to give a shout out and thanks to Pops and his wifey, Mel and Britt, because they weren't here for the last episode. Although they were kind of the reason why we were doing the episode, because 2 weeks prior, I asked, hey, what do you guys want to talk about next? And you guys wanted to talk about depression. So we did. And they weren't here for the live recording, and that was totally okay. But what I loved is they came back, watched the replay as if they were watching it live and commenting along the way. So thank you so much for doing that. Pop says, oh, right, I'm not bringing this up. Leanne, come on. So Pop says, haven't noticed any. Okay, thank you. That's fine. And you don't have to go and you don't have to monitor it. I was just wondering if that was maybe happening. And Ed is in the house. Hello, Ed. Okay, so awesome. Okay. So also, Britt, you wanted me to remind you if you want to share the poop scooping story. So, okay, I made some notes. I'm really trying to stay on top of this and work my ADHD as best I can. So, here are some of the things that I want to talk about today. And like I said, any way that this goes, I'm going to be happy about. So, whatever direction you want to take it, totally cool. But some of the things that I want to talk about is kind of the connection between ADHD and depression. I don't think we talked about that. Britt, remind me some, because you and Mel brought up some good points that we should be sharing in this episode. So please, by all means, bring that up as well. Mel was talking, she's a teacher, and she was talking about how important it is for us to be able to have these conversations, not only as adults, but as adults in front of children, to allow children to know that they can have these conversations, and having these feelings is normal. And I thought that was really powerful. And I think that's something that we don't really consider, because as loving parents and as loving adults in this world, we want to, shield kids from that sadness, right? And I understand this is very much like it's a dual kind of thing. I totally understand that. Yes, maybe like not telling kids all of the nitty gritty if they're not in a position to be able to take it on. So there is that part of it. But also, if kids are going through these feelings and then they're not seeing adults having those experiences as well, then it becomes difficult, because I'm sure they're thinking, and I can tell you, I don't know if I told the story. I'm pretty sure I have. Um, but growing up, my mom, yeah, I did. I told this story last week. So, okay, I'm just gonna say it really fast for if you're new and you're here and you didn't listen to the last episode. But my mom, she's like a rock star. She is so amazing, and she can handle things that, like, there's no way I'd be able to handle any of it. Um, I shouldn't say that. I'm able to handle a lot, Leanne. Okay. And this is the other thing. I'm really trying to be word police with myself, make sure that I'm saying the things that I really want to believe. And so you will hear me on this show that I will talk to myself and I will correct myself, because I want to be better with my vocabulary, not for you guys. Although, yes, that would be nice if I had better vocabulary for you guys. But I want to have better vocabulary for me and my subconscious mind. So anyway, but growing up, I never really saw my mom struggle with anything. I never really saw her really have frustration or overwhelm or real sadness outside of funerals and things that like were typical sad moments, right? Like, a dog dies, a whatever. Yes, we cry. We go to funerals. I saw my mom cry. Like those types of things. Yes, I saw my mom, because she is an emotional human. She's very connected to her emotions, which is amazing, and that's super helpful. But I never saw her feel those overwhelmed feelings and those I can't handle this moment feelings. And so what I didn't realize what was happening to me is it wasn't even a conscious thing. It was just that's the narrative that I was like, okay, when I was becoming overwhelmed and when I was becoming anxious and I was becoming frustrated, I didn't see my parents go through that. So I thought I was weird. I thought I was broken. I thought something was wrong with me. And I'm not going to share that with anybody because that's weird. Right. And same thing with depression. If you're not seeing that modeled, not that we want to model depression, but if we have depression, if we're feeling those feelings, I feel like we need to share that. So then kids know that it's okay, it's normal. And these are the things that we can do to get through it. So long-winded Leigh is here, apparently. Um, so anyway, that's why I think like talking through with kids, it's going to be really important. But then I also do understand that we shouldn't be sharing everything. So it is like I'm so grateful that I'm not a parent, because I don't know how I would handle these types of things. So kudos to all of you parents out there. You're doing amazing jobs, and I don't know, just magic. Britt says, I have almost zero memories of my childhood and teen years. Okay. Do you do you know why that might be? Because I'll say I had very little memories of growing up. And the only real big memories that I had were memories that were shown in photos. So like I would remember certain birthday parties because there were photos to prove it, right? And then there was like certain feelings, and then if my parents would talk about, like, they would have to kind of trigger my memory for things, so they would talk about vacations, and then I'm like, "Oh yeah, I kind of remember that." but I didn't remember a lot of my childhood. It's not only probably, I would say the last 3, 6 months, something like that, that I'm starting to remember more because what I'm realizing, um, as I think as a coping mechanism, just because I didn't have we've talked about this a million times. I didn't have really a quote unquote high traumatic. It was a big T. I didn't have any big T, big trauma in my life growing up. But as a baby, like as a child, not being able to process certain things, those were the little traumas that were happening that like I had no idea. But so I was being able to dissociate from those things. And so I didn't remember a lot of it. And now it's like I'm really good friends with a girl that I grew up with, and I haven't seen her in 20 some years. She came back into my city and she came back into my life. And now we're like being able to reminisce about certain things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that part of my life. So for me, my memory was associated to, I think, a defense mechanism kind of thing. I'd be curious if it's similar to you, Britt. But anyway, we're starting to read a book in a book club that I have, and it's called The Body Keeps Score, or The Body Keeps the Score, I think. And it is going to be a doozy of a book. But basically, what the whole premise is, and I mean, it's long and very theory based, but basically, it's just saying that even if you don't remember the memories, your body remembers. And so that's why we'll have like heightened kind of triggers for things that are not rational. You know, the book that we were reading, this past book, was How to Be the Love You Seek, and the author of that book, I was watching videos of her from like 4 or 5 years ago, and one of the examples she gave was that you know that you're being triggered if your reaction is a lot more heightened, like a lot bigger than what is in front of you. So her example was that when she would walk in the door, she would, if there were dishes in the sink and not in the dishwasher or not cleaned, she'd be like, "What? What is happening? Why can't you just do this?" And she would like blow up about dishes. And if you sit back, like, are dishes really that big of a deal? No, they're not. They're really not. Like, you can just go choose to do the dishes, right? But once she started becoming aware of, oh my gosh, like I'm heightened in this weird state, like for dishes are there, or there's a sock on the ground, or you gave me like a weird face, whatever. If you have a heightened response to it, it probably means that your body has kept score and remembers that that is proving something to you. So it's, in her thing, it was that, people didn't, I think her example was that people like didn't care for her or take care of her, that she had to do everything. And so then that was from childhood, that she didn't remember core memories of that, but her body did. And so then later on, anytime that she would see dishes and her spouse wasn't doing the dishes, that meant that she wasn't cared for, she wasn't taken care of, even though it was just meant that they didn't do the dishes. There was no meaning behind it. There was just, it didn't happen. So, interesting stuff. Okay. So I am falling behind. So Britt says, yes, most of the memories I do have are from hearing others talking of telling stories. Yeah, that was me too. So it is going to be interesting. Like the more aware we can become, the more you can open those stories up if you want. Also, sometimes they're fine being back there. We don't have to go back to all of our stories in order to be able to heal from them. We just have to know when we're having these upsets right now, being able to tell our body that we're safe, and that what we're reacting to right now is not the same problem that was 30 years ago that created that response, right? So it's all stuff I'm learning and stuff that I'm loving sharing. Okay. So Ed says childhood memories are interesting. I have very vivid memories of some traumatic events, but they originated in my dreams. It was like watching a movie from a narrator's perspective, but it is really hard to remember things for me outside my dreams. Wow. That is fascinating, Ed. That is really, and I remember you said that to me before. Yeah, that is really, really interesting. Mel says, "Do you have people showing up viewing in your Facebook page? On my end, your live is not showing up." What? Okay, because no, I do. Ed's watching. Ed, are you watching inside of the Facebook group in the friendly show, or are you watching? Is it, did I hit the wrong button? And are we on my profile page? Shoot. Oh my gosh. You know what? No, Melanie. Oh my gosh. I am not in my Facebook group. I'm in the First Day Pod Facebook group and not over there. Oh, shoot. Mel, thank you so much for telling me. Julia says, I agree with Mel that you, okay, so Julia went over to, okay. Um, Julia went over to YouTube so she could see it. So she's dedicated. Thank you. Thank you. Shoot, I guess I pushed the wrong button. Um, Okay, so I am sorry for those of you that are listening to this in the audio version, but we are having a technical issue. And I know that there's people over in Facebook that are going to want to hear this. So what I'm going to do is I am going to head over and I'm just going to kind of talk to you guys. And if you want to in the comments maybe share some little wins that you've had from the last week, I'd be happy to share those. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to go over there and see if I can just do a really quick um shoot. This is Leanne. This is not good. I'm just going to see if I can just do. Oh yeah. So I can do this and I can share this over to my group. Am I doing it, you guys? I think I'm doing it. I'm sorry for this being annoying. Okay, there we go. And Mike's going to be like, that was dead sound on your audio version. Why did you do that? Sorry, guys. Here it is. Okay, so that's okay. Share now. This is okay. And hopefully that's going to work. And my phone has been blowing up because text messages have been coming in and I don't listen to my phone when I'm recording, but that would have been helpful. Yes. So Julia says, I agree with Mel. Ed says, I found it somehow because I did it on Facebook in First Day Pod, not on the Friendly Show. And then Julia says, it's okay. I found you. Yeah, you had to work for it, Julia. Thank you so much for being here. Oh my gosh. And then Mel says, yay. Okay. So, Mel, do you mind heading over to the Friendly Show and just seeing if it's there? If it's not, I'll just have to do a big, live apology and that'll be okay. Okay, you know what? I'm just not perfect. And this you can see is the way that you give yourself grace. This is the way you give yourself grace. And I would say probably 3 months ago, that would have just been so hard for me because my heart would have sank and I've been like, oh my gosh, there's people over there depending on me and I'm letting them down. And now I'm realizing that, like, as long as I'm coming from a place of trying to do my best, um, that's all that I can do. And I literally try to do my best. I did this morning. So then they had a whole day and there we go. This is Melanie. Yay. Oh, Mel, it's working. Oh my gosh. This is what I love about community. Okay. The other thing that I want to share is that this is what community is all about because it would have been very easy for Mel just to go over to Twitch and just be there, not say anything about Facebook. It would have been very easy for Julia to go over to YouTube and not say anything about Facebook. But instead, they're like, they know there's two things, which I'm just going to assume that you guys know and tell me if I'm right or wrong. That you guys know that I will not take things personally, that I want to know what's going on. I want truth. I want to know criticism if it's, constructive. And I don't take it personally. I just try to find the solution. So I think coming from that, it makes my life easier, but then it also makes the life of those around me easier because then they're able to like do exactly what they did here. Hey, somehow it's not on Facebook. And knowing that I'm not going to be like distraught and upset and like embarrassed and whatever, they know that I'm just going to try to find the solution. And so, thank you, ladies. Mel says, yes, I know you too well. Yes. So thank you. So that's just like another little tip. If you can come from things not, you know what? You guys, I don't think I've ever said this on this podcast, but one of my favorite, maybe I have, who knows? One of my favorite books is The Four Agreements. If you have not read it, I highly, highly recommend you reading it because right now you just saw in action quite a few of them. One is be impeccable with your word. So Mel, Julia, they were just coming up and just saying what was. They weren't saying anything mean. They weren't holding their thing back because they didn't want to like share. They just shared the truth and that ended up helping. The other one is don't take things personally. Because I didn't take it personally, like, oh, I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, then I was able to find solutions. Because I think we said the quote before, it's um African kind of um what are they called? There's a word for it. Not saying, but anyway, and not proverb, but there's like another anyway, and it's around the thing that shame will shield solutions. And so if you don't take things personally, then you have less shame and you're able to find solutions. Um, and then the other one is always try to do your best. So do your best, not more than your best, not less than your best, just your best, whatever that is that day. And so I did that. And because I did that, even though it wasn't perfect, then I just know, you know what, there was nothing else I could have done about it. And I can fix it now. So that's it. So that was like really cool. Okay, let's get back to depression. Oh my gosh. Welcome to my living room, everybody. And we are going to go in a complete circle. Britt says, is the word you're looking for euphemism? That is a great word. It is not the word I'm looking for, but let's go with it. That's great. Thanks, Britt. Okay, so where were we? Yes, so we were talking about, I think we were talking about kids. Is that where we kind of left off? You can remind me. One of the things when I was talking to, I think I was talking to Mel, I don't know, Ed, maybe I was talking to you. I don't remember who I was talking to. And it's because I love you guys all the same. So it's not because I just don't think about our conversations. It's because I love you guys. You guys are so wonderful. So I was talking about how we really need to get to the point that speaking about depression, speaking about anxiety, thinking about or speaking about out loud about going and seeing a therapist or going to see these different professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, you know, being a part of a mental health organization, all these kinds of things have to become normal. So when you move to a new city, one of the first things that you are trying to do is to find your doctor, right? Like you want to find a doctor, you want to find a dentist, and for a lot of people, I know for me, you want to find an eye doctor, right? An ophthalmologist. So those are your three doctors that you go to see. But what I would love to see is that the therapist ends up being that fourth critical healthcare professional that we all see. That it's not like oh, I need to go to see a therapist because I have some sort of acute issue that's going on in my life. It's like having a GP, having a family doctor. You want to have a family doctor even if you're not sick at that moment because you're just I want to go and I want to make sure that I'm optimizing my health, right? The dentist, my teeth are not falling out. My teeth are fine. However, I go in, routinely to get them cleaned, to get them checked, to get them seen, to get x-rays. I do all of these things to make sure that my dental care is in order. We should be doing the same thing with the therapists. We should have a therapist, and that is everybody has one and everybody can go see them. And yes, sometimes you might need to go see them every week. Sometimes you might think, hey, you know what? Just going to go every month. I'm going to go for my checkup. I'm going to go every 3 months. Whatever that looks like for you, it doesn't matter. But I want that stigma of going to see a therapist to be gone. I really, really, I want us to be able to talk about our mental health in a way that, like, if I broke my arm, I would feel fine with coming here and being like, hey guys, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what happened. Here's what happened. Fill in falling down the stairs or whatever, or being stressed at work and then having a breakdown. Whatever those things are, being able to share that just loosey goosey, like this is what happened. And then saying, oh, I went to the doctor and then I had to get a splint in and then I had to get, a cast and I'm going to have to wear a cast for, the next 8 to 10 weeks. And I'm going to have to do all these things. We can talk about that. No problem. Right. But somehow we feel weird about saying, oh my gosh, I was totally stressed at work and I could feel it coming on. So you know what? I just started going to my therapist. I'm going to see them twice a week for the next couple months until I get this all straightened out and they're just going to be there by my side. Like, why can't that just be normal? And it should be, and it is, but I think we need to start talking about it more. Okay, so I am like jumping on a soapbox all over the place here. Okay, please also put your 2 cents in, guys. So then I was talking to one of my therapist friends, and she was telling me that she's been listening to a lot of Dr. Eric Berg. If you guys are in my Facebook group or in our Facebook group, I'm going to be posting a quick video there. It's about a 9-minute video. And it's really good. It's talking about now. I'm going to give a disclaimer and I will also do this on the post, that when he's talking about it, this is his take on depression, that depression is the symptom of something else, that is not the disease. It's not the cause or the actual issue. It's the symptom of something else, which I do believe. But I don't want, so what happens is when we hear things like this, then I want you to know that we're not minimizing anybody's experience with any of it, with depression, with anxiety, with ADHD, with any of this. Okay. So anything I say, I am never meaning to minimize your experience with it. Okay. I just want that out there because it's true. That's not a disclaimer to keep me protected or safe. That is from my heart. I just want you to know. But this is what he's saying. Depression is a symptom of something else. Okay. And here is where he thinks that the causes come from. Actually, since I have my notes here, I will wait and I'm going to go over so that I don't lose track of this. So Ed just said, I agree, focusing on prevention is as much as important as acute care. Actually, I believe our healthcare system is geared towards acute care, but lacks in chronic care or prevention. That is where we need to educate ourselves on how to self-care. Amen, Ed. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it is absolutely always like taking care of the problem and never looking at the root, never trying to prevent. So I completely agree with that. And Mel says, I think depression has a stigma of it being a burden. Yes. Yes. There's also shame around it. There's also like I wasn't able to, and I'm just speaking for me. There were many times in my life that I felt like I needed to go see a therapist. But what I heard all the time was, "Oh, yeah, he needed to go see a therapist," or, "Oh, something's going on with you. You better go and talk to somebody." Like in a not nice way, not like "Hey, I think you should go to the doctor and go get your heart checked." Right? Like it wasn't in a loving advice giving way. It was like those were kind of the things, "Oh, he went to go see a shrink." Like in the 80s, we heard that all the time. So these were the kind of things that played up in my mind. So then when I would think about going to a therapist, the actual thought that went through my mind, and I might have told you guys this, you guys will just get to know me. I repeat stories. So you guys can like say, hurry it along, Leigh. We've heard this before. But when I used to think about wanting to go see a therapist, the number one, so I would look and see and try to find a good therapist. But then the other thing that I would look for is where's the address and where's the front door? And I would do a Google map of where I would be parking, where I would be walking, and where I would be entering. Why? Because I didn't want anybody to see me go into that office, which is it's very embarrassing now to say, because I know that I would have helped myself so much. My 20s, my 30s, and my early 40s would have looked very different if I wouldn't have had that shame about walking to a therapist. That stopped me from healing a lot sooner. So now I'm mid 40s And now I'm just doing the work. And so I have not scheduled my first therapy appointment, but I am super, super excited. And I'm going to be telling you guys all about my experience with it. Because I think it's going to be, I've never had a stigma with anybody else going to therapy. I always thought it was so cool that people could go to therapy and felt good about it and that they were like learning all of these things, and it was awesome. So I never had a stigma for other people, but I always had it for myself. Um, so yeah, so there is what that is. And Mel also said that's not what I believe, of course, when she says that it's a burden. But yes, I do think that that's what people think. Mel also said, yes, Ed, most definitely. Mel, I love that you are talking to me from two different places. You're on Twitch and Facebook. You're so awesome. I love you so much. Oh, that's because you're going back and you're commenting because you're that sweet. You're just commenting on both. Okay, awesome. So Mel says, has the stereotype of coming across laziness, pull up your bootstraps and get on with life. Yes. Yeah, that's also the thing. Like I can't handle my stuff, you know? Like, and that's the other thing is that I've talked about this as well about, you know, I've been trying to life hack my way through life, um, probably almost for my whole life. Um, but absolutely through my 20s and 30s and early 40s. It was always like, okay, what is the fastest, quickest, most efficient way for me to do X? It didn't matter what it is. And so I always felt like I can do everything. I can take on everything. I can handle everything. And if I couldn't, then something was wrong with me. And then this is like embarrassing and, just get through it. And what's wrong if I can't, you know? So yeah, pull up your bootstraps, get on with life. Toxic positivity is another one of like, just look for the silver lining. And this is an and, okay? And I believe that to be true. I believe that what we focus on, we create. I also believe that, like, right now in this moment, if you're watching this live with me, or even if you're listening to this in the replay, right now, you are choosing to focus on somebody talking about depression and their experience and sharing it with other people that are also sharing their experience. That's what you're choosing to focus on. And I'm glad that you're here because that means that you're looking for, answers and you're looking for solutions or techniques or so you're looking for something to be able to help or just social connection, which is also really, really not just, but like that's what you're looking for. And you're getting it, I'm hoping. So, but in this moment, this is what we're choosing to focus on. And so what we choose to focus on, if we choose to focus on the happy, if we choose to focus on the little things, then yeah, we're going to see more of that. And in that moment, we're going to feel happy. If you have a dog, and Britt, I think you were going to talk about this too. But if you have a dog, like just spending time cuddling with your dog or playing with your dog or just telling your dog how much you love them and then them telling you how much they love you, in that moment, you're feeling joy. In that moment, you're feeling happiness and you're choosing that. And that right there is your life. That is your life. That moment, this moment right now is your life, And so we get to choose, do we stay in that, woe is me, I'm never going to get out of there, I don't have hope, or do we choose to figure out the things that bring us joy and spend more time in those things? You know what I'm saying? Now, when we have major depression and we're in the midst of it, it is freaking hard. It is so hard to even get out of bed or to open your eyes or to think of any of those happy things. But that's why the gratitude journal, it sounds so trite. It really does, but it actually helps because it reminds you of things that you are grateful for. Something that I'm going to be starting is a gratitude journal that's a self gratitude journal. Because I'm pretty good at being grateful for my family and my friends and for you guys being here and for the opportunities that I have and all of these blah, 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 blah. But I do not do a whole lot of I am really grateful, that my eyes are working. I'm not very, or that I have the ability to be able to come on live and do things like this that, would scare a lot of people, but I'm, really grateful that I challenge myself and have myself grow. Like I don't do that a whole lot. When I'm sharing my wins, it's usually results based, I've realized, and that's also, I mean, it's good, but we need to be focusing on the things that we can control, and we can control the way that we respond to situations. Let me jump off of my soapbox and then move back into the comments. I hope you guys are laughing. Okay, so Ed says, the stigma is strongest in my family. My parents thought my struggles were due to my lack of faith, church, and belief in God. They also believe depression is a choice. So that added to my shame and delayed my getting help or me getting help. Yes. That's a huge one. That I hear a lot. And depression. So I do not believe, although I believe, so I want to kind of like dissect this a smidgen. I do believe that happiness is a choice. That I do believe. But when I'm thinking of a choice, it's because you have to have action in a choice, right? Um, Depression, I do not believe is a choice. I don't believe anybody would choose to be depressed. Now, people will choose to stay stuck in something like the depressive feelings. They will choose to stay in even sickness. They will choose to, because received um if they've received attention through it, then yes, that sometimes will be nice to keep that, because it's the only way that they found people loved them, or um appreciated them, or took care of them, or filled some kind of need. So you've seen that happens. Also, change is freaking hard. So you may choose not to change. And we all do that. Like, even not in just depression, not trying to change our depression, but just trying to change anything. Change is hard. And our body actually is developed or designed to keep us safe. And safe is where we are in something that's familiar. Change is not familiar and does not feel safe. So, yeah, in that respect, I do believe that staying in depression, um, when you're having those spurts of feeling okay, um, you can choose to stay in there. And, that's up to you. But having depression, I don't think anybody would choose that, like, truly. Um, and yeah, I think that does delay, like, because we have shame around it, that we won't go get the help. That was absolutely with me. And that whole thing about faith and church and God, I do agree with that as well. And I don't agree with what you're saying. But I do agree that there's a lot of people that say, oh, the reason why you have that is because you don't have a strong enough faith. And I think that's really unfair as well, not judging your parents or your family at all. I come from a very Catholic upbringing. And so there's, but I was also very lucky to have a priest that was very, he understood the human experience, which I think a lot of people in faith, now I'm very faith. I pray to Mary every single day. So I personally believe in God, believe in Jesus, and Mary is my girl. So I'm coming from a different kind of place, I think. But my priest that I was pen pals with as a kid, because he got kicked out of our church, and I wanted to stay in contact with him because he was so awesome. He understood the human dynamic, the human experience. Um, and so he understood that, depression is real, and that bad things will happen, and you'll make bad choices. And I think that's really important, because faith can help you. And I really do want everybody to believe in something bigger than them. And because it does help, it 100% does help, but it will not, it is not the reason. You can love God and believe in God and pray to God and still suffer with depression. So, yeah, I had a really good sleep last night, you guys. Um, So I have a lot of energy, and I'm realizing when I have a lot of energy, I guess apparently I hop on a soapbox and have a lot more to say. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm so happy that you guys are here. Huh. So Mel says, yes, so hard. Love my gratitude journal, self care journal. Love it. Yes. So I think it's just like a nice little tweak. And if you have a gratitude journal that you already do, just maybe like if you do 3 a day or 10 a day or whatever it is, maybe even just saying, hey, I'm going to pick, half of them are going to be about me. And then half of them are going to be all the other things that I'm grateful for. Okay, so Britt says worthless. Where this is where my ADHD comes, because now I'm gonna have to like go back and think about all the things that I said. Um, so can you explain to me what that means, please? And thank you. And sorry if I'm just like brain farting on that. Ed says, when I was depressed, especially with my major depression, it felt like I was walking in wet cement. Any movement or positive thought took extreme effort. I eventually learned to celebrate any action that I took. Yes, finding gratitude each day was a crucial part of my recovery. Now I can't go to bed before I acknowledge at least one gratitude. Oh, that is so good. So, so good. Thank you for sharing that, Ed. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Mel says, she says, my dad suffered with PTSD, Vietnam veteran, and my mom, I feel, due to having epilepsy, suffered with a mild form of depression too. Wow. Yeah. It's interesting. So, did you know that your parents suffered from, I mean, the epilepsy, I guess, that's difficult to hide, but PTSD, um, like, did you notice that when you were a kid? I'm just curious. Again, nobody has to answer any of the questions that I ask. Sometimes I go a little bit too, personal, I guess, but that's just me. And I get that from my nanu. So I will blame it on my grandfather, because my grandfather was always, my nana was like, shh, don't say anything. They're trying to hide that. And then my nanu would be like, hey, so Frank, I heard that you're trying to hide this thing. What's that all about? And I think we all could be a little bit more like my nanu. Because he never did it to like shame anybody. He just was like, hey, if you're trying to hide it, like, let's just talk about it. Maybe, bring it out in the open. It's a lot easier that way. Mel says, oh, I'm going to start doing that, Ed. Thank you. Yes, very good. You know what? I had another group, and Ed, you were part of it. And what did you think, Ed, when we were doing and be honest, what were you thinking when we were doing that Hello Happy, that we would do the 5 areas every night before we would go to bed, and then we would like put in, how much water, how much sleep we got, and just had that quick checklist that we did every night before we went to bed. How did you find that useful? I know some people in the group really did. I did. I want to bring it back. Is that something that maybe I should bring back to the friendly show and offer that for everybody to be able to do, and we can all check in on that? Because I'd like to know your experience, Ed. Okay, so just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, so another thing that I brought up. Oh, I started talking about this. Then we got over here, and now I'm back to my notes. These notes are great. Okay. So when I was listening to Dr. Eric Berg, he was talking about the causes of depression. These are the causes that he thinks where it comes from. Okay. So this is just like for a piece of conversation, and I want to hear what you guys think. But there's 7 areas. He says from loss, right? So from loss of a loved one, loss of a job, 2 from stress, 100%, like absolutely. 3 from winter, and that is not only from the vitamin D. That's what everybody says, like, oh, just like up your vitamin D, but also because you're not getting sunlight. And so I know like where we live, we have like January, February is just like the gray months. And I know that my depression, it really is exacerbated in January and February. And I can see that in a lot of the things that I do now that I'm aware that it's always January and February are my slow months. But this past year, I've been using the like the light therapy, and that's been really, really helpful for me. So if you guys don't know about that, getting a light that's like a um, like full spectrum light that replicates the sun. It's not as good as going out in the sun, but it replicates the sun can really help. Anyway, so there's that loss, stress, winter, and then pregnancy. And for many reasons, actually, because you are getting depleted of so many of your nutrients that you could actually have lack of iron, lack of zinc, lack of magnesium, and that can really put you into that depression. Um, having a gut, and he called it a gut dysbiosis. Ed, am I saying that right? Anyway, that is an imbalance in your gut. And so that could be from, having antibiotics, which is interesting because usually you have antibiotics, right? Because you have already been suffering from something. So you've already been sick. You've already had that. Now your gut is totally imbalanced. And so that can actually feed into depression. And so if you're already at a low and now you have that issue, it can just kind of keep you lulled into that, which is really interesting. Um, Britt, I see your thing. I'm going to do it in just 2 seconds. I just want to finish this one thing because the other causes that he says are no sleep. And so that gives you the lack of energy. And because he was giving the example too of like, there's very rarely will you ever see somebody that has a lot of energy, like true energy, and got really good sleep consistently that also is feeling depressed. It's almost unheard of, because if you have good sleep every single night and you're feeling really good and your energy is also high, it's going to be really hard for you to feel depressed. So that was really interesting to me. And then blood sugars, having your lower blood sugars there, or heightened, I guess. So Britt says depression derived from physical ailments. Um, Depression derived from physical ailments makes you feel. Oh, okay. Thank you. So he says depression derived from physical ailments makes you feel worthless. When you can't do the things you used to do easily, it makes you feel worthless. Like you are not contributing and just being a leech. And you'll feel lower, that the leech, a waste of a body. Okay. Okay. So thank you for sharing that with me. That is completely honest. Something that came up for me is, so something that I've been thinking a lot about is aging. And stick with me here. So in aging, your body starts slowing down, right? So depending on how you take care of your body, blah, blah, blah. Yes, you can live a lot more years and live whatever. But eventually your body starts slowing down and you can't do the things that you used to do. And so we're all going to end up, if we are lucky enough to live into old age, we're all going to have to deal with that. We're all going to have to deal with the fact that we can't move as fast. We can't lift as much. We can't speak as quickly. We can't think on the spot. Like we can't do all of those things that we once did. And if we are putting our worth on what we can produce, then we're going to have an issue even in old age, even if we didn't deal with depression. So I'm only saying that, again, not to minimize what you're saying, Britt, but it's something to think about, that if we can, this could also be something that's going to be one of those things that, like, it's awful that we have to go through it, but if we can learn not to attach our worth to what we're producing and just know that we're worthy just for being alive, just for being here, just for being Mel's husband, you're worthy. Then as we get older, we'll be able to feel that and maybe not feel those effects then. So maybe it's like a teaching, kind of like a lesson, you know? That's also really annoying, Leanne, if you're if you're going through it right now, and I totally get that, but just something that came up for me. Mel says, he was very okay, so this is about his parents or her parents. He was very upfront, vocal with me and my brother. As we got older, he would tell us slowly his experience as a prisoner of war. Wow. It got worse when mom passed away. He would see visions and have nightmares. But when my boy stayed the night, his PTSD was more calm because it wasn't so quiet. Oh, wow. That's really interesting. Wow. That's really interesting. So, um, wow. Okay, so now I'm just like I'm rereading it all. So one of the things that like another question that I have is so when he was always vocal about it, you said that he as you got older, he would tell you more about the experiences. Do you think that was more because he was feeling like you guys were old enough to kind of hear it? Or do you think he was like, because I know with PTSD, sometimes like guys can't or people can't even go back there. They can't even talk about it. Was he kind of slowly bringing it out because he was coming out like not to terms with it, but doing therapy or being able to handle speaking about it without being triggered by it? I'm curious, or if it was more because of your age and thinking that you guys could maybe handle more. And thank you so much for sharing it. You guys, thank you so much for sharing all of this. Like, I love you guys so, so much. Ed says, okay, so about the Hello Happy. Okay, so huh, for me, the checklist felt more like a chore. Oh, wow. Just tell me honestly, Ed, how did you feel about the thing that I asked you to do and that I spent hours creating? No, I'm just joking. Okay. Oh, dear. For me, the checklist felt more like a chore and another item that can lead to guilt if I forgot to do it. There are a number of things I do for my mental health: meditation, prayer, journaling, gratitude, etc. So I guess I was not motivated to do it, but you can still share it. Nothing works for everyone. Yes, absolutely. And I love this is what I absolutely love that we can have these conversations and you're not just like, yeah, it was great. I loved what you did. You're just like, nah, it wasn't for me. And that's totally fine. So, yes, and I'm also going to share it. So, we'll see if it helps anybody else. Um, Mel says, babe, that makes me sad. Yet thank you for being vulnerable. I think babe is to Brit. Is that am I your babe or was that for Brit? I think it was. Um yes. And I'm sure they're going to have another conversation about that. So Mel says he was writing a book and that was his therapy. Oh, wow, that's super cool. That's really really neat. Um Okay, so Ed says there are many supplements that can help depression. Vitamin D is very crucial, but even more important is good gut health. Diet, microbes, and gut health plays a major component. This is a topic in itself. Amen. Yes, absolutely. So, more to my notes, speaking of that, he was saying this doctor, and I'm going to put it in the Facebook. But he was saying that those are the 7 kind of main causes. And then, which is actually interesting because then when Britt was talking about, depression coming from chronic illness and pain, then I was like, well, yeah, but chronic illness and pain also comes from the blood sugars, the no sleep, the gut problems, the stress, all of that. So I can see how that all actually really intertwines. So then he was saying some of the major things that can help with depression. He believes, and I also agree. But then again, I want you to listen to your doctor and work with your doctor. Okay. So again, I am not a healthcare professional. So this is just what I am seeing and hearing and know to be true for me. But then again, also, I was not diagnosed with major depression. I know that I suffer from depression and from these levels, but I was not diagnosed with major depression. So if you have been, and you're working with a doctor, please continue working with your doctor. But maybe you might want to bring up some of these things and see if some of this can be implemented. So here are the things that he was talking about. He was talking about, and you'll see it in the video, but he was talking about how important number 1 was the sun. So that is really, really important. And then he was also talking about that light that I use. He said it should be at least 10,000 lux and full spectrum. And if you can do that 30 minutes a day in the morning, that's great. Ideally, it would be getting outside and getting that actual sun exposure because it will help increase your serotonin. Serotonin. It will help increase your vitamin D, which will decrease your depression, like all these kinds of things. Also, fasting. Fasting repairs your brain. So I can see a big difference in me. I don't do like major fastings, but I do fast in the way that obviously I'm not eating while I'm sleeping, and now I'm sleeping more. So I used to only sleep 4 hours a day because I was like, "Oh, that's fine. I have so much to do. I'm so important." It was so dumb. So I'm so important and all these things to do that sleep was not on my radar, and that was really dumb because then that ended up hurting a lot more of the things around me. And so now sleep is one of my priorities. So now I don't eat for that 8 hours that I'm sleeping, right? I also try not to eat for about 3 to 4 hours before I am sleeping. And then I try not to eat for about 3 to 4 hours after because I like to just kind of get into my day and let my body kind of take care of what it needs to do. Again, intermittent fasting is not for everybody, but I now know that if I'm eating right before I go to bed, my body, instead of repairing my brain and helping my muscles and doing all that kind of thing, it's just spending its time and energy digesting the food. So that's why I do it, because I know that from a health perspective, there is something there. So a 12-hour fast is not very difficult, especially if you're sleeping for 8 hours. 8 hours, 2 hours when you wake up, 2 hours before you go to bed, there's 12 hours, right? Um, so he says that fasting can repair the brain, which can help with your depression. Having a good probiotic can also help because, like Ed was saying, that will really help with your gut biome. Um, and then the keto diet. We talked about the keto diet yesterday or last week. That's a big one. It's something to consider to try. It doesn't help with everybody, but it helps a lot of people. And then he also talked about cold showers, exercise, more sleep, and then, like Ed was saying, the vitamin D, but also magnesium and zinc. And then I did say that I wanted to talk about ADHD. So I'm just going to leave a little bit at the end about that because I can't believe that we've almost been talking for an hour. There are many supplements. Okay, so Britt says, "What about fasting? Because I forgot to eat for a day or two." Okay, how did you feel? Because I think you said that before I finished talking about fasting. Um, how did you feel when when you were fasting, when you were not eating? How did you find your symptoms? I'd be really curious about that. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, but it will be tricky because I don't believe you guys are big sugar people, but you might be. I don't know. No judgment. I am. I'm not proud of it because I know that it's really affecting me. Um, and I want to get a handle on it because I know that it's not doing well for me, but I am a big sugar person. So if I fast, like tomorrow, I'm going to be fasting for over 24 hours just because today was a horrible day for my eating. I had a lot of stress and I'm realizing that I am a stress eater. And my dad had made banana muffins with blueberries and raspberries, which is my absolute favorite. And so that doesn't sound like it's super bad for you. It's kind of healthy. Like it's fine. It's a good one. However, I ate 8 of them today. That's not good. One would have been fine. So I had that plus I had like I think just TMI, but whatever, you guys. I'm not perfect. I had like 3 breakfasts all back to back. Why? Because my sister was like, "Hey, Leigh, I made you eggs and toast." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so nice. Thank you so much." Even though I just had 3 of those muffins before she woke up. That's what I had for breakfast. So then I had the eggs and toast. And then somebody reminded me that there was cinnamon toast crunch in the house. And I'm fine. Out of sight, out of mind. I will not eat anything. As soon as somebody tells me something that is delicious is in the house, then my radar is like, find it. Where is it? I want it. And now all of a sudden I need it, even though I was full. So then I ate that. Then I ended up having like 2 lunches. I had 1 dinner. I ate way too many calories today. And it's not from a health standpoint. I mean, it's not from like a losing a weight or anything like that. I was slow today. And I can't be slow. I got a lot of things that I want to do and I want to just be healthy and energetic. I know I seem really energetic right now and I am mostly because I'm talking to you guys and because I got my sleep, but food wise was not great. So I'm going to be intermittent fasting even more so and I'm not eating tomorrow. I don't recommend that for many people probably, but it works for me. So I'll be doing that. Pop says, "It was just a normal day. It didn't register that I wasn't eating." Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I would just be curious. Oh, so what I was getting at with the sugar is that if you've eaten a lot of sugar and then you fast, even though fasting could potentially help you, our bodies are really interesting and our brain is really interesting. If you were also going to be detoxing from the sugar, that can make you feel even shittier, right? Because now your body's like, where's that sugar? I need that sugar. And you can get like really, when you start going off of sugar, um, you can get really like just agitated, frustrated, mean, like all this kind of stuff. And so, even though it's helping your body getting off of it or intermittent fasting or whatever, fill in the blank of the healthy thing, that's also counteracting it. So then you might be like, nope, I can't go off of sugar because it makes me awful or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? So even though there can be benefits to it, you'll have other symptoms. So we just have to kind of discern what is happening in our body. I'd be really curious, Britt, if you played around with intermittent fasting and what happened with you, and the whole keto thing. Obviously, working with your doctor, but experimenting with that and then seeing if that affects you at all. I'd be curious. So then the ADHD, I'm just going to kind of leave you with that because it was really interesting some of the stats that I saw. So they were saying that people who have ADHD are 3 times more likely to experience depression. And it's difficult to be kind of discern between ADHD and depression because there's so many overlapping symptoms like low mood, poor self-esteem, self-image, challenges um, with um, with kind of managing the expectations of a neurotypical society when we're neurodivergent. Um, that challenge ends up like being difficult because of what Britt was saying about like feeling worthless and having all of this and then not feeling like we're kind of like useful for the society. That is not only a depression thing, that's also an ADHD thing. And so they're very like intertwined. And although ADHD is more common in men, the core morbidity of like having more than one kind of diagnosis, having ADHD and depression is actually more prevalent in women. And then he, um, this wasn't that same doctor. This was somebody else that I was researching, but they were saying that the treatments, there are meds and therapy that will really work, but then also the lifestyle. The lifestyle was a big thing that comes up in all of them. And the more that we're researching all of this, how it all intertwines, it's really important to be looking at that and trying just to experiment with it and not doing everything, not saying, okay, well, now I got to do cold therapy and I got to get the sun and I got to get exercise and I got to get on keto and I got to do all these things. Just pick one, pick the sun, you know, or, or whatever, pick one and just try it. Experiment with your sleep for April and see how you can maybe get a little bit more sleep. Maybe having the phone outside of your bedroom and see how that affects your sleep. Like just find something that you want to experiment with, and don't pick all of them, but just pick one thing. And so you can kind of see how it works. Our awareness is our best asset. The more that we can tap into that and see how our body and our brain, and our spirit and our energy is all intertwined with the choices that we make, the more that we're going to be able to figure out what's best for us because it's different for everybody. Just like Ed said, even though the Hello Happy thing did not work for him, it might work for you, you know? So anyway, that is it. We're well over an hour now. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. I absolutely adore you. I love this podcast. I love our community. If you're listening to this, you're not part of the Facebook group, please come on over. It's The Friend Leigh Show on Facebook. It's a private group. Everybody in there is so beautiful and supportive, and it's just a really, really cool place. I want you to be a part of it. I want to see you there this week, and I want to see you here next week on Wednesday. I've got a couple ideas of what we'll be talking about. I'll put it in a poll in the Facebook group. We'll figure out which one we're going to do for next week. And then I will see you guys then. Have a wonderful weekend. I love you. Big hugs. And please take care of yourself. You're worth it. I love you. Bye.